welcome back to the channel. Welcome to today's video. I hope you're doing really well. Today is a very exciting one. I'm going to be doing a followers budget for them, and so I've done this a couple of times before. I like to do my budget every month, as a lot of you will have seen already. Every month I go through my income, my outgoings, all of my expenses, all of the bills that I've got to pay for, childcare, mortgage, everything you possibly think of, everything that I save towards, everything that I invest in, and everything I do with my money basically. I'm very transparent about it. I am only one person, and I would really like to be doing other people's budgets as well if it's something that they would want me to do. And someone has reached out and they have sent over all of their info. They're having a really hard time at the moment in terms of just surviving, and to be honest, finances are probably the last thing that's on this person's mind because they're going through the ringer. They've just split up with their partner, they are on maternity leave, they're going back to work next month, and it's just a bit of a crazy time. And also financially, things are looking very different to what the plan was, and so this, I feel like, is the least I could do to just give that person a helping hand, even if it's just a suggestion, and then she can tinker with it. I'm basically going to send the done spreadsheet that I'm going to do with you now over to her, and she can just make the changes that she needs to make to hopefully get her through, at least financially, this really hard time. And hopefully she can get to a position where she's back at work, things are back on track, and she's got a really solid plan going forward. So that is what today's video is. If you want to see the exact spreadsheet I'm going to use, I'm going to link it down below. I sell it over on Etsy and it will be in the description box, so you can download the exact spreadsheet. I'm going to use the one that I have made, and I'm going to adapt it for this person. This person's also on universal credit and has child maintenance and child benefit, and also either a salary or statutory maternity pay. So it's very complicated, but we're going to sit down, we're going to go through it all, and yeah, let's do this. So what I've done here is adapted the spreadsheet so that it has everything that she's going to need for this second half of the year, and then I've just hidden January to June because obviously they've passed, but once it gets to next year, she can just reuse this spreadsheet, just go up here, unhide them, and then start afresh basically. But this person, I'm not going to give her name because obviously it's got a lot of personal details on here, and not everyone likes to overshare on the internet like I do. Essentially, their income is very spread, and it's going to be different from this month to next month. So, starting off with income, we are going to look at all of the different kinds of income that she's got coming in on the different months. Obviously, like I said, her situation at the moment is that she's just split up from her partner, she's currently on maternity leave, she's now a single parent, raising her baby, she's still on maternity leave, so it's like, there's a lot going on at the moment, so, and there's a lot of dribs and drabs of income coming in from different places. And so this is what it's looking like in July. She goes back to work at the end of July, and so her pay slip for August will probably be a little bit better. I'm going to start off for July, leaving salary as blank, as she's still on statutory maternity pay. She's estimating that stat pay will be about $650. I think it will personally be more than this, but she's given me the worst case scenario so that we can just kind of go from there. Universal credit tops her up by £1,323 if the statutory maternity pay is at $650. If her statutory maternity pay is more than that, then her universal credit will be less than that. But we've just evened it out to work out like this, like I say, for the worst case scenario. She also receives child maintenance from her ex-partner, which is £115 a month. At the moment, that is £80 worth of child maintenance, and then the rest is going towards a debt that they have in the house that she lives in. I believe that is because they have an energy bill that is in debt at the moment that they're just in the process of paying off. Child benefit is £104.20, I believe. Yeah, £104.20 for her one child. And so her income alone this month will be £2,192.20, which is actually really not that bad. However, obviously she's a single person in a house, and so all of the bills come on her. It's very different than if you were living as a dual income household, because this doesn't go particularly far when you're trying to look after a house, a baby, it's tricky. The other thing to consider is this lady has also got £2,000 in savings that she has received through an inheritance. At the moment, it's just sat in the bank and she hasn't done anything with it, but she is aware that she might have to dip into this money to get her through this month. And then Next month, she also has a further 3,000 coming from that inheritance. But she's basically just saying that she really wants to make wise decisions with this money, not just put it towards bills and things, because obviously it's not something that's going to carry on coming. It's just a one-off payment. So next month she's got £3,000 coming from that inheritance. I'll do August as well because she's back at work next month, and so her income's going to look very different. I have a feeling that her outgoings are going to exceed July's money, and so we're going to figure out what to do with the inheritance money, what pots to put that in, all of that kind of thing. But we're also just going to do August to see what the difference is there. Like I say, she's going to have that £3,000 in August. She's not going to put that towards her bills, but it's worth putting in here just to see how much money she's got in total. And then, like I say, we can divide it up accordingly, and she can change this however she wants to, basically. So when she returns to work, she's going to have her full teacher's salary back again, which will be £2,530. Universal credit, she will still be eligible for a small amount of it, so £360 of universal credit she'll still be eligible for. And that's probably because she's a single parent that she is eligible for it, because obviously although £2,500 is a great income, actually it doesn't go particularly far when, like I say, you're trying to pay for a whole household and trying to get through all of that. Pay for childcare, work full-time, all of that kind of thing. That it won't stretch particularly far if she's trying to work as well. And so I feel like the universal credit top up is to help single parents and people that need it to carry on working, carry on paying their bills rather than relying solely on universal credit and probably not being able to afford rent and all of that kind of stuff. So that's sort of why that's there. You can do loads of universal credit calculators and benefit calculators online to see what child benefit, child maintenance, universal credit, all of that kind of stuff you are eligible for. This person has also done that, and she figured out, we'll get down to it in a minute, she figured out that she is better off not claiming the tax-free childcare, but claiming universal credit instead and claiming up to 85% of her childcare bill back so that she can continue to be a teacher and continue to work full-time. I feel like, again, if she was trying to pay almost full price with the tax-free childcare scheme on a teacher's salary, it would be near impossible if her child had to go into full-time childcare, because full-time childcare is like over £1,000 a month, and her rent is going to, we'll get down to that in a minute, but her rent is going to be over £1,000 a month. So that alone would wipe out all of her money for the month. And so that is why these schemes are in place, so that people, single parents, people that need it, can actually continue to work, not just survive, and also contribute towards the economy and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, I thought I would just mention that if you are a single parent especially, like, definitely look into universal credit, look into what you could be eligible for, because I think you'd be surprised. You might not think you're eligible for things that you might be, who knows. So yeah. Then once she's back at work properly, the child maintenance will go down to £80 a month from her ex-partner. That's because the bill that they were trying to pay off, like the debt that they were in for their energy company, will have been paid off by then. And then child benefit will still be £104.20. So along with the £3,000 that she's going to get in inheritance, she has £6,000 to play with, which I understand that these amounts look very, very large, but this is a person with absolutely no savings, no emergency fund, nothing. She's got obviously her MOT and her car and everything else coming out. We're going to go through her expenses in a second, and we're going to see where we can put this money just to get her in a really good place. But without that, without the inheritance money, it wouldn't be anywhere near that. And so I think that is where the panic is setting in a little bit. But for now, let's take the inheritance money off, and we're just going to play with the £2,192 and the £3,000 that she's going to have when she goes back to work. Down to expenses, and first up with rent is £1,100 a month. She said she's happy with that. She did want to look into buying and saving up for a mortgage and stuff, but she's actually quite happy renting at the moment. So especially with her current situation, the rent apparently she doesn't feel like is too bad in the area that she's in and the house that she's in, and she likes the flexibility of being able to move and stuff. So she's happy with the renting situation, which is good. Water is £40 a month. Gas and electric is £168 a month. 58 of that is paying off the debt that they had with the energy company. Internet is usually £32.13. However, this month she won't have to pay it because they overcharged her another month and there were some service issues and stuff. So let's scratch that for this month, which is good. Her car finance is £256.08, which is pretty hefty, but I think that's pretty standard for people who are getting their car on finance. Like that's a pretty standard payment, unfortunately. Sofa payments is £62.86. Again, pretty standard. Council tax is £150. However, she has applied for the single person discount that you can get if you are one person in a house, but it hasn't come into force yet. So I'm going to put the £150 in as worst case scenario. Childcare this month won't be any because she's not back at work yet. However, that will start to come into force in September when obviously she goes back to work full time as a teacher. Then we're on to subscriptions, which I feel like is the area that a lot of us could probably do better in and like cut down on if we were really honest with ourselves. But let's go through the subscriptions that she's got, and then obviously if she needs to like pause or cancel any, then she can do that. HP Inc, she pays £4.49 a month for that. She said that that's for like 50 pages or something. Some months she prints 100 pages, some months she prints like 10 pages, but having 50 a month kind of covers her either side. Spotify is £8.50. Amazon Prime is £8.99. So Amazon Prime for me, like we don't pay for it, we don't have it. I just wait the 2 or 3 day delivery that Amazon offer. But if you use Amazon Prime for like watching TV and stuff on it, then that's fair enough. I have noticed that she hasn't got TV license on here, so I'm assuming she doesn't watch BBC stuff, but she watches things on Amazon and Netflix instead. Amazon Prime is cheaper than paying your TV license anyway. If you're not watching the BBC, then you don't really need to, I guess. Amazon Subscribe and Save is £9.88 every 2 months, so in actual fact is £4.94 every month. And so if she keeps £4.94 in this account, whatever this account is, probably just like her main current account, then that should be enough to tide her over every 2 months when she gets her Amazon Subscribe and Save stuff. If you don't know what Amazon Subscribe and Save is, it's basically just you can get things discounted if you order them through Amazon, like on a subscription basis. I don't know what's on hers, but I'm sure that she's making a saving by doing it that way. Netflix, she does the $4.99 version, which is the one that we do as well. She also has Skin and Me, which is the $24.99 one. However, she said that she's paused the subscription for now, and is just going to see how it goes, obviously once her money is back on track with where she usually was, but for now it's been cancelled or paused, I think. Gym and swimming subscription is £32.50. She said this is a really important thing for her, like getting her daughter swimming and comfortable with the water, and this was a really, really important thing for her, which I completely appreciate. And then the teaching union fee isn't applicable at the moment, but when she goes back to work in September, that will be applicable. So I'll pop that in when we do August or September. And so just with bills, she is already at £1,896.35, which is pretty high considering her total income is only just under 2,200. So if we scroll down to the bottom, you can see how much she's got left over. It's £295.85 at the moment is what she's got left over to do all of this, and that's spending money, savings, all of that kind of thing. Like I say, we're going to add the inheritance and we're going to see where we can dip into it, but we're going to do that in a sensible way. So for now, let's go on to spending money. For spending money, I would always recommend, and I say this every single time I do a budget video, I would say put spending money into a Monzo account or an account like Monzo. I use Monzo, I love it. I think the app is really user-friendly, and you can physically put different amounts of money into different pots so that you are just using that money for that thing that you've allocated it towards. So for example, petrol, she said that she uses about £80 a month on petrol, and so if she puts £80 into her petrol pot on Monzo, she knows that she's always going to have money in that pot for petrol, and so it's a very helpful way of budgeting, I find. For the food shop, she's saying she's trying to keep to a budget of £230 for her and her daughter. She feels like this is realistic because when she was with her partner, they were spending about £460 a month, and so she's kind of halved that and gone with this number, which I think is pretty sensible. She said that she usually gets toiletries and stuff on the food shop, so she thinks that 230 is pretty doable. However, formula is extra at £70. That is like how much it's costing her at the moment. Formula is pretty expensive, so that's fair. For days out and activities, she said that she's roughly spending about £10 to £20 a month, so I'm going to go with the higher end of that just because, again, it's just kind of being on the safe side. that is about £80 a month. Already you can see that the spending money is at £460, and that is well exceeding the income that she has got coming in this month. Like I say, the inheritance hasn't been put on yet, and so it probably just will be the case that she'll have to dip into that. So I'm going to add the 2,000 here, which is the amount that she's got in savings at the moment, just to be realistic with what she can actually do with that money. And so for house stuff, she is giving me examples of like having to get a new doorbell and a new knife block, or just like bits and bobs around the house sort of thing. Like everything always breaks, doesn't it? So you always have to end up buying something new from Amazon or whatever it might be. So she's put £30 for that, just for like replacing random bits and bobs around the house, which I think is fair. Baby stuff, she's given me all of the examples of like wanting to make sure that she's got a pot of money aside for when the seasons change. She needs a new sun hat for a baby, or she needs, you know, the new next size up in clothes, or whatever it might be, like sun creams and all that kind of stuff. She's put £50 as a budget for that. And then clothes for herself, she's put no budget for that. She doesn't need any new clothes at the moment, but when she goes back to work and she needs to like dress, you know, for work as a teacher, she probably will need a little bit of a budget for that. But for now, that's what she's put. So £540 for the whole of her spending money. And then we go down, you can see that this is with the inheritance. She's chipped into the inheritance. What I'm thinking is we can start to put that inheritance into savings pots. That is reflective of all of her priorities and savings goals and stuff like that. She has told me that she would like to use the inheritance that she has left over towards things like an emergency fund, a Christmas fund, birthday fund, a car maintenance fund and car insurance fund, and also saving up towards, I don't know if this is necessarily from the inheritance or moving forward, but in the next 2 or 3 years she would like to take her little daughter to Disneyland Paris, and she's thinking that might cost a couple of £1,000, so she would like to start saving up towards that now, so that that's something that they can do in the future. She also mentioned a new car fund for when this finance term runs out. Obviously, in theory, you think that buying a car outright would be better than having a car on finance, but she explained that she actually had some issues with getting cars privately, and then the cars like breaking or having issues with them, and obviously when you get a car on finance you do usually have a bit of protection. She also said that she would really like to start contributing at least £50 a month into her daughter's junior ISA. I'm not sure if that's an investment ISA or a cash ISA, but either way it's a savings pot for her daughter, and the money will grow. The more she puts in it over the years, the money will grow for her. I've put it into the investments category. I'm not sure if it's an investment ISA or a cash ISA, like I say, but I'm going to say £50 because that's what she said she wants to put in a minimum for her every month, and she has the money, and for her that is a really, really massive priority, along with actually really wanting to have an emergency pot, because obviously she's just had like a big life event happen. She's split up from her partner, she's just had her baby, she's on maternity leave, like big things have happened, and she didn't have like a lot of savings to support her around this. And so I feel like she's probably now thinking, right, I need to have an emergency pot of money just in case anything else changes, like, you know, life might come at you and you need a little bit of money to support you through it. So my suggestion would be to put £500 of this into an emergency fund straight away. This emergency fund is obviously for like the big things that happen in life, and if you ever need to dip into it because of an emergency. Luckily she rents and things, so anything big that happens in the house, like the boiler breaking or a window smashing, are covered by the landlord. For car maintenance, she said that she wants to save about £500 towards car maintenance because she's got her MOT and her service due in August. I personally don't think a car MOT and service should cost £500. However, if something goes wrong with the car, you never know. So I'm going to respect her wishes and put £500 in for car maintenance for the MOT and the service, and should anything go wrong with the car maintenance or the service, the money is available to her and it's in that pot. The same with car insurance. She doesn't pay monthly for her car insurance, she pays annually, and again, because she's got this money available to her, she'd like to put money aside for her car insurance, and it was £450 last year, so £500 will completely cover that, which is a really good way of doing it. And then because she will have done these things outright now, every month going forward, she can then put a little bit of money towards it, rather than just having like £500 like in a month, there you go. Every month now, going forward, she can put money into these pots. £30 a month, £50 a month, whatever she can afford. And by the time it comes around the following year, she will have the money available to her, rather than, like, not every month you're going to have an inheritance of £2,000 just hanging about, are you? Then she's got £205 left of the inheritance money to play with. And so for me, I would just divide that in order of what your priorities are for the next few months. I guess for Christmas, if she hasn't got any money aside for Christmas yet, I know that it sounds like mad, but Christmas is in like a few months' time, 6 months or whatever it is. So I would say probably 100 of that towards Christmas, and then birthdays, I would probably say maybe like £50. We've got £55 and 85 pence left, and so I've put here holidays for next year, and then the Disney holiday that she would really love to go on in 2 to 3 years. It's up to her how she would divide that. I would suggest if she wants to go on holiday next year to start saving for that and put £50 there. But if she doesn't want to go on holiday next year and would rather put that towards Disney, then put that in the Disney section. And then obviously we move on to August, go back to the income. We've got the income all sorted here. That is how much her income is going to be without the inheritance money that she's also got coming through next month or August. So I've pulled all of the fixed expenses across, but there are then just going to be a couple of additional ones to contend with. So internet will start back up, and it's going to be £32.13 from next month. So I've popped that in, and then childcare will also start from September, which is going to be £420. Oh, exactly, £420. So with the childcare, I mentioned it already, but she said that because she is on universal credit, she, instead of not getting universal credit anymore and getting the tax-free childcare, it works out better for her that she would claim universal credit and then claim the childcare up to like 85% of it off of her childcare bill to allow her to carry on being a teacher, working and all that stuff. So that is what it's going to look like for her when that happens. As well as the teaching union is going to be £25 a month as well. So along with everything else, her expenses from September are going to be £2,348.48. I'm just going to drag her income all across, and you can kind of start to see why, even though she's got a really decent income, actually she's going to need these top-ups from the child maintenance, the child benefit and the universal credit in order to just get her through like a standard month, because obviously a single person still has to pay a whole household worth of expenses. Hopefully she can get the discount on the council tax, but I don't know when it's going to come through for her. And then she said when she starts back at work, for things like the gym and swimming, she's going to do less of, so she'll probably cancel the membership and just do pay as you go instead. Like I say, for this spending money, I would suggest putting all of this money, so this month doing 540, next month 570, and then the following months 590. I would suggest putting that money straight into a Monzo account or a Chase account or any kind of account that you can divide pots of money up into, and doing exactly that, like getting the £590, putting it into the Monzo account and then putting £80 into petrol, formula, £70, whatever it is, and then when it comes to spending the money on those items, spending it straight from the Monzo account rather than just a big current account where all the money is. Then we're down to savings and investments again. Like I said, she wanted to put a minimum of £50 a month in the junior ISA for her child, so I'm going to pop that in as an absolute minimum. Without the inheritance money, she has still got £525 left over without putting any money into savings just yet. She said that obviously with the emergency fund, it's £500. She would love to get that up to like a decent amount of money so that if anything were to go wrong in life, she has that to fall back on. And if her priority is that emergency fund, then I would suggest at least doing £100 a month if she can afford it. Once her MOT and her service are done, I would suggest putting like £30 a month into a car maintenance fund so that if anything goes wrong, she's got a little bit of money in there. Also saving up towards the next year's MOT and the next year's service. Car insurance, she said it cost £450 for her last year. Hopefully car insurance has gone down by now, but if it hasn't, and she spends the £500 on the car insurance and she's starting from fresh, in 12 months time, if it does cost another £500 or another £450, then she will need to save £37.50 towards car insurance if she wants to pay it off annually. Paying it off annually is so much cheaper than doing it monthly. But yeah, as long as she actually saves the £37.50 towards it, she'll be sweet. And then birthdays, holidays, Christmas and Disney. Again, with Christmas, I would suggest £100. I mean, it really depends on how much you want to actually have towards Christmas. Like, it completely depends on how much you think you're going to spend. And then again, it kind of just depends on the priorities, like how many birthdays she's got a year. I know that she's only got one child, but she might have other family members that she wants to do things for. She might want to do things for herself. So I'll put the £50 in for birthdays. And then if she really wanted, she could put £100 for a holiday next year and £100 towards the Disney trip that she would like to go on in a couple of years' time. With all of that being said, from September, it looks a little bit different for her because her income is £3,000. However, her outgoings are significantly higher because she's also going to have childcare and all of that kind of stuff. And so going down to the spending or the saving, the spending's probably going to be roughly the same, like house stuff, days out activities, that kind of thing. £590 is what we've put there, and none of that can really budge unless she makes some lifestyle choices, like some lifestyle changes, and that will be down to her to do. But when it comes to savings, at the moment, even if we didn't put holidays, Christmas or Disney in, she's still in the minuses, so she's minus £99. And so we're going to have to look at how much to put into things like emergency fund and things like that. So I would suggest from September doing £50 in the emergency fund. That's if, by the way, I've just changed it here so that she can give her pots a little head start with the inheritance money that she is due in August, to relieve the pressure a bit when she goes back to work and hasn't got loads of money to be putting into savings pots. And so the emergency fund, I said, put 2,100 of the inheritance into that, and then 1,000 into the Disney pot, and then that leaves her with like £8.22 to play with. So that's the inheritance gone. She doesn't have to do that. Obviously, she can change any of this however she wants, but she's given me those as priorities, and I completely get that. With that being said, I would probably suggest here, the car maintenance and the car insurance kind of have to stay the same. The birthday pot can go down to probably like £30 a month. This is where her like priorities are going to have to come into play. We'll have to make some changes here, and so even without anything going into the emergency fund, if we put £10 into the emergency fund and then £10 towards Christmas, that's literally all she's got. She's literally got like 72p left if we do that. Realistically, you either have to look at your expenses or the spending money that you're spending throughout the month. Do you really need £100 on activities? I guess when she's back at work, she probably won't need that much money because her daughter's going to be in childcare, she's going to be at work, so maybe that can go down to like £50 a month. If that's the case, then she might have a little bit more money to play with in terms of putting it into savings and saving up towards things like Christmas, holidays, all that stuff. If it were me, I think I'd probably put money towards Christmas, I'd probably put 50, and then it depends on your priority as to whether you want to go towards a holiday next year or you want to put your £20 towards Disney the following year. Like, it is completely up to you and what your like priority is. I know that she really wanted to put towards an emergency fund as well, and it's probably the most sensible thing to do, but it just depends. You also don't want to like give yourself so many restrictions that you're not enjoying your life very much, and if that is the case, then you're going to be way more likely to spend the money that you've put into savings to like give yourself that dopamine hit to like actually feel good. So if you are getting to go away on a little caravan holiday or just a UK staycation or whatever it might be next year, and that's going to cost maybe like £300, is it worth saving that money up now to get that so that you have achieved a smaller goal and, you know, it's going to get you through, rather than putting that £300 in your emergency fund and then not having any of those kind of lovely little treats and feeling quite down about it and then ending up dipping into your emergency fund to buy some random things on like ASOS at midnight when you're like up doing night feeds. Because we've all been there. It's totally personal and it's totally up to you and it's up to this person. But what I'm going to do is send over this spreadsheet to the lovely lady that let me do this for her, and I'll get her feedback and everything. And I'd love to know what you would do differently if you were doing this budget, what your circumstances are, like if this has been a helpful video or not, and if you would like me to do one for you if your circumstances are different and you want a little bit of help in this area. Obviously, I have to caveat all of this with none of this is financial advice. It really isn't. It's just me trying to be helpful. Maybe it's not helpful, but I hope it is. But yeah, for now, guys, I think I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
glue all the pieces back together. Yeah, you take all my wrongs and make them better. Yeah, you're making me wanna try forever. And I feel so free, oh my sweet baby.